in the bus, please. Please, come on, back in the bus.
Okay, the buddy shots are here.
Hello.
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 Hello. The time that you were like, I fucked it up, and I was like, wait, did you? I had to take your word for it. Okay, so this week we're talking Duel. You nominated this film, sir.
Yeah. Well, no, I challenged you to a duel. Are you ready to defend your honor?
Well, I accidentally watched the movie in preparation for this fucking fight. But
cool.
Before we get into the cool duel, let's talk about Newz.
It's me every time.
Yeah, it's like I think you started that, and now I'm just like continuing it. So go for it.
It has to be even more extreme.
It has to be. Yes.
Alright, well, my nerd news for this week is back to one of our favorite subjects, Indiana Jones 5.
Nice. You have the same shit I do.
Harrison Ford has injured himself while filming.
Hey, it wouldn't be a Harrison Ford film these days if he didn't injure himself like on Star Wars.
Well, maybe it means
he's too fucking old.
Have an action movie starring an 80-year-old.
Right.
Because that's going to keep happening.
It's like watching Picard run up like a flight of stairs. It's like, okay, dude.
Ugh.
Yeah.
So, yeah, unfortunate, but hopefully he recovers. I mean, it's a shoulder injury, and hopefully it's not as bad as like when he had his leg crushed.
Hopefully it's not his whipping arm.
Oh, no!
Even though in like Indiana Jones 4, I think he whipped like one time from what I remember. And he fucked it up, so.
How many times did he nay-nay? Sorry. That was pretty bad.
Oh, God. He's like, yo. And I'm like, he's like, yee. Dude, that's hilarious. Holy shit.
Was that your same nerd news?
No, well, actually, I had 3. Because I was going to give you a multiple choice. But now it's down to 2. One is either Indiana Jones related again, because I had 2 Indiana Jones articles, or one is George Lucas related.
Let's go to Indiana Jones just to close it out.
So there are reports that in Indiana Jones 5, Indiana Jones is going to go into space for a small portion of the...
What? Okay. We'll see. I mean, stranger things have happened, I guess. I mean, he's, like, fought ghosts and stuff, so...
Yeah, like, give me a second here. Let me see if I can find the actual what it says here. It says, Indiana Jones will reportedly send Indy to space. This is one of those, like, things where it's like, obviously at this point it's a rumor because no one has a official script that's been leaked yet that they're shooting with, but he'll be heading beyond the stars. I mean, if it happens, I assume it's probably going to be...
Beyond the stars? I mean...
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
If he goes into low Earth orbit, that's one thing, but if he goes beyond the stars...
That's not possible.
Yeah. He's like
I hate when people say that. That doesn't make any sense unless you're talking like legit. Somebody went into like another dimension, but even then they'd still be around stars unless they're going into like a dimension like in Ant-Man when they go into the tiny verse. It's like okay. Yeah, it's just essentially...
around the time of the moon landing is when the movie's going to take
Right,
place,
I assume what's going to happen is he's going to accidentally get on board a fucking spaceship like he did in 4, where he gets in a fucking refrigerator and gets blown into space. I mean, or not into space, but I mean, the idea of that isn't exactly something that's like new to Indiana Jones. I mean, he runs into Hitler on accident and a bunch of other bullshit happens, but it's kind of like the idea of it going from like an accidental run-in with Hitler to like surviving a fucking nuclear blast by being in a refrigerator to like going into space accidentally. Like, how does that happen? Was he like...
The refrigerator was lined with lead, so it's safe.
Yes.
Makes total sense. Actually, there are way more things about that movie that bother me than that.
That's actually the most ridiculous, though, because he would have been dead as fuck. Not from the explosion so much, but, like, the landing would have, like, crushed his fucking body.
Yeah, like, all his bones would have been broken.
They would have opened the thing, and he would have been, like... Well, not only that, but, like... Refrigerators back then were, like, known for, like, locking, so either somebody would have found him or he would have just been dead.
Suffocated.
Right. Yeah. But, you know, you're right. In 4, there were way more. There were a lot of other things, like, you know, well, watch the movie to find out. Because...
Or don't.
Yeah, that's the better option.
I don't hate it. It's not that bad. It's fun.
It's definitely the worst Indiana Jones movie, but
Yes.
it's not, like,
Yes.
the worst movie ever made.
Right.
I don't know what would be the worst movie ever made, honestly. Anyway, so...
We've discovered that on this show. It's the AVGN movie.
There's way worse movies we just
Not
haven't
really.
seen. Yeah, I was like... It's got to be one of those blockbuster films that, like, I rented back in the day that I thought was going to be awesome, like Children of the Living Dead, that I was like, ugh. Actually, at least that movie was like Birdemic. It was, like, entertaining in a bad way. Or Troll, where it was like, you know, this is bad, but it's bad in a good way. I'm talking like the movie is so bad that you're like have to turn it off because it's boring. But anyway, let's go on to something you like to call, and I as well.
Recommendation Nation!
Ding, ding,
Ding,
ding.
ding, ding.
Yeah, baby. Okay, so what do you recommend to this nation?
All right, my recommendation Nation is a new limited series from 2021 starring Bryan Cranston called Your Honor. Have you heard of this one?
No, I thought that after Breaking Bad that he just killed himself.
No, he
Like in Godzilla,
was
right?
killed by Godzilla.
He was killed by... Oh! Victorious Cirque is now following. Thank you for the follow. We appreciate it.
Huh? But this show, it's like an 8-episode series where he's the main character, and it's kind of similar to Breaking Bad in a way, but he plays like a respected judge.
Okay.
And his son is in like high school, and he has an asthma attack while driving, and like
His son, or
when he's trying
him?
his son.
Oh, okay.
And when he's trying to find his inhaler, like he accidentally runs over a kid and kills him. And he's like so freaked out, he flees the scene. So when Bryan Cranston finds out what he did, he's like, "Well, we gotta do the right thing. You know, you gotta report yourself and face the consequences." So they're going into the police station where he can, you know, report himself. When Bryan Cranston realizes that the kid that he hit is the son of like the mob boss in town.
Oh shit! So there's no way he can.
So
like, yeah,
right, because if he admits to the crime, he'll be killed.
Yeah,
right. So then the show's about like him trying to cover up the crime.
Right.
And he uses like his judge skills to know what to do, but it's like, you know, every time they think everything's covered up, like a new loose end like gets revealed.
Yeah.
So good stuff.
That kind of reminds me of like, I was gonna say Matlock. Like, not really, but like, it's kind of like when we watched like what's it called, Law-Abiding Citizen, or like Jamie Foxx's job description wasn't to solve the crime. Like that's how Matlock was, where it was, like that, not to that degree, because yeah, it makes sense that he uses his judge like to like his past experience to like kind of be on top of things, but like. I don't know why it reminded me of, like, Matlock, where, like, he would fucking solve the crimes and shit, and it's like, dude, you're the dude fucking, like, cooking people to task.
And that's what bothers me. That same subject about. Have you ever seen 12 Angry Men?
Mm-mm.
Have you heard of it? It's like a
I have,
classic
yeah,
play and movie, but like, it's about the jurors in the jury room, and like they realize that they solve the crime. It's like, shouldn't the lawyers have done that? Like, this is really about the incompetence of the lawyers.
Well, what happened? Did they like?
Well, as they're deliberating, they realize that like what was presented in court, like there was missing information, and they kind of put it together to realize the truth.
How do they know
like,
that there's
dude,
missing information?
Yeah, it's crazy.
The only movie I've ever seen where there's like, I know there's a lot of movies where like they have like stuff like that where like the what's it called, the jury, like either like the jury is unimportant and they're like nameless people, or like the movie is about the jury, like. Yeah. Because, like, they have that one movie with Pauly Shore where he, like, he's the only person that doesn't think the person's guilty, and he ends up being right. The guy didn't
Jury duty, man.
Yeah.
Where, that in theaters for some reason.
Where, like, he's like, this guy's not guilty, and everyone's like, you're a fucking idiot. And then, like, they find out that, like, he actually was, spoilers, he was fucking innocent.
Yeah.
People, like, they didn't give a fuck. They just wanted to convict him. But... And then on the other end of that, you have Ernest Goes to Jail, where they convict the wrong Ernest.
Evil Ernest.
Yeah. Mr. Nash goes free, and they send Ernest P. Worrell to prison to be fucking sent to the old Sparky, and he gets powers.
I remember we saw that in theaters when we were real little kids, and we had to leave because my sister was so like traumatized by Evil Ernest.
Dude, holy shit.
He was like freaking out.
Well, thank you for the gifted subscription, Victorious Sect.
Thank you.
Victorious Sect RT, or Sector, maybe. But I love the Ernest movies. Some of the later ones I didn't watch as much.
Ernest is awesome.
I don't think they didn't get a lot of like watch in our house, because by the time like they had some of the later ones, like Ernest Goes to Africa,
yeah,
and stuff. Oh, thank you. But like, yeah, like, definitely like the earlier ones, like, I don't know, Ernest. I feel like Ernest Goes to Camp is definitely like that's the first one, but like I feel like it really started to take off with like Ernest Saves Christmas and Ernest Scared Stupid and like, Ernest Goes to Jail and all those, like.
Yeah, I love those movies too.
Anyway, enough Ernest talk. I'm gonna recommend. I'm like, Ernest Scared Stupid. Columbo.
Nice.
So, Raid. Thank you. Columbo. So I don't know if anybody's, speaking of like, I guess like people solving crimes, Columbo's kind of like a pretty classic detective, but it's not like, I don't know, it's hard to describe because it's literally just like a detective that everybody thinks is an idiot, but he's actually like super smart, if that makes sense. Like
his skill is like being underestimated by everyone, basically.
Right. and it's not like he doesn't seem to like do it on purpose, but like he's kind of just like a humble person. Like he doesn't go for like the what's it called, like the fame or anything like that. He just like he only cares about like his wife, and then some versions he has what's it called, Sturdy Brims, thank you, banana shirt, I love it. In some versions he has like a dog, and then like in some he's like his car is always messing up too, so it's like, you know what I mean. I don't know if that makes, if anybody's seen it or not, but it's pretty legit. I know I'm not really selling it. I'm trying to think like how.
No, it's great. It's amazing. Actually.
Yeah, Peter Falk like defined like not only the role but like the idea of like kind of the, I don't know. It's a very unique take on a detective, because there's like a bunch of different kinds of detectives out there and stuff, but like I think that's like the first one from what I remember seeing where like the detective is not necessarily like, I don't know, he's downplayed. So,
but also the show is cool because every episode like starts with you see the crime.
Right, yeah, you know who did it, and like literally you have to like you know Columbo's gonna figure it out, but like you have to be like, well, how's he gonna figure it out? You know what I mean? How
much Columbo have you seen?
I've seen all of them except for like the ones where he switched over to like because he got canceled and then they like switched it over to another thing.
I've only probably seen like 10 episodes ever, but I loved them all.
Yeah.
They're all like at some point watch all of them.
They're all like movies because they're like an hour long or so. Yeah. Oh, thanks for the cheers. Holy shit, we're getting cheers up in here. Also, I guess we get a shout out to King Waffle House due to the cheers here.
Nice.
But yeah, it's weird because definitely like some of the later ones, like when they switch over, because like I've seen one or two of like the ones when they switch over to a different like, I forget what station they go to, but like another station picks it up and it's less like cinematic, so it's not as good. It's more so like
Comedy Central.
Yeah, for sure. Comedy.
It's like win Ben Stein's money, Columbo.
Oh my god, Columbo on South Park. But yeah, I just remember like watching Columbo, and then like I saw him on Corky Romano, and he says like I don't care if my son's like an F word, and it was like okay. Little known Peter Falk weirdness.
Dude, speaking of which, there's this movie from the 70s called The In-Laws, I think.
Yes.
Starring Peter Falk and Alan Arkin.
Yeah.
And it's a comedy. And at one point in the movie, like Peter Falk, there's this crazy car chase, and he's driving backwards, like down the highway, being chased. But the funny part is, they did a commentary for it, like when they were super old men.
Uh-huh.
And Peter Falk was like, "Oh yeah, I remember when I was driving this backwards. It was so crazy." And Alan Arkin's like, "You weren't actually driving, dude. Like, there's no way anyone could ever do that." Peter Falk remembered actually like
he was, even though they were like either on a thing or like somebody else did it.
Totally fake.
He's like, "Man, that was so great when I did all this," and everybody's like,
exactly.
What?
They're like, what? You actually no.
It's like either they did it on a stunt or they had you in the car and they were like hooking it up to a thing. Like, what?
Yeah.
Oh my god. Jesus Christ, man.
Anyways, sorry.
No.
Made me think of that.
How dare you talk on this podcast? Okay, well, let's move on to our main topic of the week, which is Duel. So, Duel, for people that don't know, is a 1971 American action thriller film written by Richard Matheson, the same person that wrote I Am Legend. Correct?
Yep.
Correct.
Your boy.
Yep, which is based on his own 1971 short story also entitled Duel. The film marks the feature-length directorial debut of Steven Spielberg and was distributed by Universal Pictures. But
it was a TV movie in America.
Yeah,
it was released theatrically overseas.
So like this actually got like a TV movie, and then it was actually released as a, because they did the same thing with like Salem's Lot. But they essentially added a bunch of extra shit into this movie to make it like, I guess like the 90-minute mark or whatever. Because originally it was 74 minutes, and like Universal was like, "Steven, you need to go back and shoot additional scenes to make this like a full-length film." And apparently like the new scenes were the railroad crossing, the school bus, the scene with David like phones his wife in the opening scene, which to me I was kind of shocked that those were added scenes because I was like, okay, if you took those out, would it literally just be him on the road the whole time? Like,
Yeah, like especially that train scene was pretty iconic.
yeah. To me, I feel like those scenes were pretty legit. So let's talk about the film here. David Mann, Dennis Weaver, is just a regular family man on a business trip. Unfortunately, things go from bad to worse when a huge gasoline truck in front of him forces him to drive slower than he wants. As the drive continues, Mann realizes that he's not dealing with just another road hog, though he can never see the trucker's face. The driver proves to be psychopathic, starting to run Mann off the road and trick or force him into a number of deadly situations. As the horrific trip continues, Mann tries to lose the truck, but each time he thinks he's finally in the clear, the truck returns to terrify him more. Finally, the horrific conflict builds to a point where he realizes that running won't save him, and that he must take a stand and fight back against the insane trucker. Yeah, so so there was actually kind of a reason why I brought up Columbo earlier. This film is like cited as Spielberg's first like directorial like debut as far as like feature length film, and like I as a directorial debut as a like feature length film, that's true. But if you like would consider like the Columbo like stuff to be like a film, that's actually like, I don't know if that's his first, but that actually came out before, and he directed the very first episode of Columbo. which is
a great episode with William Shatner.
Yeah. It's pretty good. They had a lot of good people on that show. But a little bit of trivia here about this film is that Matheson actually wrote this story after he was tailgated himself by a trucker on the way home from a golf match, and it like fucked and freaked him out so much that he was like, he had to like, you know what I mean? He had to like, I guess, write this story.
Yeah, he said it happened on the day that Kennedy was assassinated.
Yes. Yeah.
And like after that ordeal, he was like, I don't care about Kennedy. Like that truck was way too scary.
He's like, I don't care about Kennedy. He's like, Kennedy, I don't care about it.
Kennedy.
Yeah. Steven Spielberg was given 10 days to film this movie, which I was like, are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah, that's insane.
Also, like, originally they wanted him to, like, not film. Like, they were like, dude, it won't be a problem. Just film all of the driving stuff, like, on a screen, like they used to do with, like, the James Bond films and stuff, some of them.
Yeah.
And he was like, no, that's not going to work. And so, like, they were like, okay, well, if you can do it in, like, 10 days, you can do it, you know. And he was like, okay. And I think this is, like, the fastest he's ever done a movie, he says. And the last thing I have about this is that, like, apparently he considers, like, Jaws to be a sequel to this movie, to a degree, because it's, like, in the same vein of, like, a, like, faceless, like, horrific, like, thing coming after somebody.
Right.
So, just a little bit of interesting stuff I found.
Yeah. Cool.
Not like literally. It's not like Jaws is like the son of like the car or anything like that, but like it's like it's kind of like how like in Halloween.
I thought you meant the henchman.
Yeah. Sorry, that's I left out spiritual successor. Yeah. There was actually inside of that was Jaws was driving the car the whole time.
Dude, what if that was true?
It could be. You never see the driver.
And that's how he got his metal teeth, because his teeth got knocked out in a crash.
Yeah. Wait. The shark.
Yeah. The shark was driving the truck the whole time.
Once again, when you said teeth knocked out, I assumed like you meant like Jaws the fucking like.
I was. Yeah, the henchman.
So the font for this movie is fucking really weird. It's like a
It's like Hanna-Barbera
horribly
style.
goofy font. It's really one of the only things that doesn't like fit in this film.
I thought you were going to mention the font for sure.
Yeah, I was like, huh? It's not. Well, it's not like they just use it for the logo either. It's like all over the fucking credits. I was like,
It's like real
it's like Flintstones style,
60s style.
shit.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Also, that was something I was gonna bring up. Because it just said in the chat, like, Bruce doesn't seem like he could drive that well. Like, why? Do you know this? Why do they name? Why is that like the unofficial or whatever name for that shark in Jaws? Bruce.
Because Spielberg named it after a lawyer that he hated.
Oh.
So he's like, I hate this shark, so I'm going to name it Bruce because I hate this guy named Bruce.
And he's also like a big fucking Terminator Salvation fan. He's
also,
like,
Bruce Campbell was inside the shark driving it.
don't tell me to shut up, Bruce! That was actually Bruce the shark that he was talking to. He's like, no! He's fucking walking onto the set, swimming onto the set. So there's like a whole bit where this guy's like, and I think this is supposed to be like a comedy like joke like on the radio thing, but like it's like there's a whole bit on losing. This guy's like on the radio and he's like, I lost being the head of the family when I got married to my wife. And I'm like, what is this shit? It just keeps going on, and like even like the main actor just sandbags it. Like he doesn't laugh or smile. It's like a Bob and Tom skit that like no one gives a shit about. He's like, I don't mind being counted in the census, and being like a silent minority, but I just don't like that. So here's my problem. I get this thing, and you guys should really give different things like multiple choices, because now it's one of those things where it says, "Are you the head of the family?" And he's like, "Well, I'm the man of the family, but once I got married to my wife, I no longer was the head of the family." I'm like, well, then if you married your wife and you aren't the head of the family, like you think because you stay home, then you never were the head of the family, because how the fuck were you in a family with your wife before you got married? You didn't have a family before you fucking met your wife, you idiot. Anyway, the guy sandbagged it, and
That just made me think that I'm
agree.
glad like radio must have been really terrible back then.
Yeah,
compared to what it is now.
I mean, I think it depends. I mean, Bubba the Love Sponge is like a fucking person that's on radio, and he fucking sucks. So I think it really just depends. I think it was just like, that's not funny then, and then you have shock jocks that are just crude and not funny now. It's like a different kind of like,
That's true.
So, and then we have this classic fucking gag where this guy says, I play meat, and the guy's like, you play meat? And the main character's reaction to this is, that's sick, man, that's sick! Like, some of the stuff that is said in this movie is like hilarious because it's so of its time. Like, it's not like bad, it's just like that, like, man, that's sick. Like, what? Is also very weird.
I like. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I like the opening credits to this because it had been so long since I'd seen this. I forgot that he was driving from L.A. to like Bakersfield, California. Because I've made that exact same drive like a ton of times, and it's a very like memorable like location. It's a good location for a driving movie.
I also wanted to say that like even though this movie was made in '71, it does not look like a very old, like bad. Not like movies like back then were bad, but it doesn't look cheap, or it doesn't look like since
it doesn't look dated.
Right, exactly. Yeah, that's what I mean.
And if you go to that area, like it hasn't changed very much at all. Like it's just like a very like backwoods.
That lady's
area.
still trying to like pick her snakes up.
And tarantulas for some reason.
Yeah, that was random. I was like, okay, so this is just a prelude to like Indiana Jones.
Exactly.
So it was weird seeing like the gas stations where they had attendants that would pump your gas, wash your windows, and check under your hood and all that stuff. Which was actually a thing back in the days. Like, you would pull up to a gas station instead of getting out and doing everything yourself and going inside. Literally, you would pull up and like people would come out and be like, "What do you want?" And you'd say, "Hey, I need to I need filled up on gas," and they would wash your window and they would like bring you stuff to eat if you asked for it and stuff. Like, it was definitely a different time.
Dude, there was one gas station in Mason that was
they used to
not self-serve.
Right, yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah. They actually had one in Lebanon too, like South Lebanon, that kind of did that same thing. You would pull up and they would like, yeah, I think they kind of like,
I always was like, what the, did we go back in time?
I think they kind of cut that out because they were like, fuck off. I actually don't know why they cut it out, but so then there's this conversation he has with his wife about how his like co-worker was trying to rape his wife last night at a party, and I was like, which makes me think like, if yes,
well, dude, the wife was mad because he did nothing.
No, I what I was gonna say was, I thought it was weird that if this wasn't like something like the studio was like, we need you to put more scenes in, if they had never put this in, like, that means that you would either not know this guy has a wife or he would not have a wife in the film.
Well, not only that, but like, he's so mild-mannered that he wouldn't even say anything when his wife is being like harassed in front of him.
Oh my God, I mean? You're right.
So he's like a cuck.
Not yet, because she wasn't raped. But
like a pre-cuck.
It could happen. I don't think it will now, though, after what happened. I think he's like gonna be like a destroyer. He just fucking committed a murder of a murderer.
So you think after this movie ends, he like buys a truck and starts terrorizing other people?
No, I think he's either gonna like become like the dude from like that movie we watched with where like, was it the spy movie we watched?
Lupin?
No, like the one that was like live action. It was one like that Eric like nominated. It was
Real
like,
Men?
Yeah, Real Men, where like the one dude comes home and he's like not a pushover anymore.
Yeah.
Either it's gonna be like that, or this guy is like legit. This is like the origin story of the Joker, maybe. For one of
I sent you the poster in the chat. Have you seen the poster for Duel?
Yeah, dude. There's a lot of posters that are like, what? Like, there's one that literally gives away the ending of the movie.
Yeah, that's the one I put in the chat. It's like, good lord.
Yeah.
And his face, he's like, yeah.
Yeah. People were freaking out that self-serve would cause their station to blow up because people didn't know how to fill their own tanks.
Oh, that's totally true.
Yeah. Well, I actually know. I think there was a while where like there were a couple people like I knew that like had never pumped their own gas at one point.
I think the state of New Jersey is still not self-serve.
But like at the same point, yeah, because it's funny that you even bring that up, because I remember we were in I forget what state we were in. I think it was like Arizona maybe or something. And we were on a road trip, and like it was like fucking hotter than shit. And somebody left the hose in their shit and took off, and it like ripped the thing off, and there was gas everywhere. And my dad's like, "Okay, time to go," because it was like so hot. It's like, okay, well, time for a fucking fire to explode this fucking gas station. Like, everybody was freaking their shit out. I was just like, God, how stupid can you be? That guy literally just fucking ran off with the fucking shit. That and overfilling, I'm assuming, is a thing.
Well, maybe that's what happened. Remember when we were in Chicago and we saw like that mulch fire that was right next to that gas station? It was like, let's get out of here.
Yeah, I was like, huh? So he tries to pass like this person off, that is later on this trucker, and he goes, "Oh boy, you're beautiful." And I was like, what the fuck? It's just like another hilarious instance of, you know, the dialogue in this movie.
Which there's not much of.
Yeah, true. Well, it's like, there's funny dialogue for a bit like this, but then it gets to a point where the guy is like fucking shell-shocked for the rest of the film. Let's see. Here's another great line. "Come on, you miserable fathead, get that fat-ass truck out of my way." I was like, did he say fuck? But no, he said fathead and fat ass. I'm sure fat ass was like, holy shit back then. There's a part where like the trucker like waves him on. He's like, go ahead, you can go past me. And when he does, like, he's literally waving him into like an oncoming car. And that's when he's like, wait a minute. This guy is trying to fucking kill me. Or that's one of the first, like, kind of like, something's up here.
Yeah, it's pretty nightmarish.
So, and then there's a prolonged chase, and he crashes into a fence, and he's like, when he gets whiplash, he's like, oh. And the guy's like, this old man's like, are you okay? And he's like, no, I'm okay. No. But this is the beginning of the inner monologue in this film, which I feel like really sets it apart from like other thrillers and suspense films that I've seen before. And I feel like it really adds something to this. Like, his inner monologue, like, so he's in this diner and he starts to like maybe rationalize the whole chase, saying that like maybe the guy needed to get something to eat at the cafe and that was the only, like, you know, place around, like, or like, you know, all this other shit. And like he's like, why did I stay? I should have left as soon as I saw that he was here, or, you know, this or that. And it's like, yeah, it's very interesting to like hear a character's thoughts in such a like horrific moment for him. He was like flipping out.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the reasons I like this movie a lot, is it's like, what would you do in this situation? And there's not much he can really do. Like, it's not like he makes a bunch of stupid decisions or anything.
Right.
It's like, you can't outrun it. You know? If you turn around, he's just going to find you again. So it's like, what would you do?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's there's a lot of times when like he thinks that he's lost him, but then like he catches up to him, or he's like somewhere else.
Yeah. Or he like loses him and he's like, I'm just gonna stay here for at least an hour.
Yeah. And then the guy's like waiting for him.
Still finds him.
Which
I also like that bar or the diner scene,
yeah,
because on one of the windows they had a sign that said beef dip, and I was like, oh man, I bet that's really good.
Diarrhea.
A good beef dip. Like, dip that beef. You take a beef.
You take
and
a
you
beef.
dip it.
You get a diarrhea. So he's like thinking about how he's gonna like try to smooth things over with the truck driver, but he's like not sure who it is in the cafe, possibly. All I know is that like the driver has brown boots and there's like multiple people that have them, and then like there's one guy left that has it, possibly, and he confronts him, but it's not the correct driver, and the dude somewhat beats him up, but like not really. He like accidentally breaks a fucking like thing, like he breaks like a he like goes to hit him and he like hits a fucking light and some other shit, and then it's like, what just happened? Like, and then the guy's like, that's enough, come on. Like, he's like, I'll buy you a beer, I'll buy you another drink, and the guy's like, I'm out of here. And he's like, I think it's time for you to leave. So like the people in the diner aren't exactly like mean at all, but they're not like super welcoming, because they keep like looking over at him, and they're like, he's a creep. And I'm like, he's just a businessman. Like, like he's an out-of-towner, so like I'm assuming that's why they treat him like that, but like, I don't know.
But yeah, it's just like when we went into that bar in Port Jefferson.
Port Jefferson?
Yeah, up in Sydney.
Australia?
Where your belt was heard jingling.
Oh, see, I didn't know. What's that bar called? It's like Route 66.
It's like the Route 47 Inn or something.
Yeah, no, yeah. That's a little different though, because like this diner is like literally everybody there are like, it seems like they're truck drivers. So do they literally just keep coming back to this same fucking place? So they're all locals? Like, they know them or what? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas, yeah, like everybody in there, that was literally the only thing around for like, well, not really for miles, because like you could go up the road and there was like a bunch of places to eat. Maybe that was the only bar though. Well, it's not true either, because there was a BW3s, but anyway, the actual truck driver pulls away, and like he never came into the bar, like into the place. It looks like because he had stopped, and it looks like he was somewhere else maybe. And he he runs to see what he looks like, but he can't catch up. Like, he is running, and it's like,
Dude, his run was like putting Tom Cruise to shame.
Yeah,
like, dude, this guy is like lightning fast.
Yeah, he was going full out, but like, I mean, I don't know
Usain Bolt
why he thought that he was ever going to catch him. He was like in a car. But that's
gotta admit that run was pretty good.
I mean, it was good, but it was nothing compared to the power of the fucking Peterbilt.
This show brought to you by Peterbilt trucks.
Yeah. Fucking killer.
Like GMC trucks, more for your bucks.
So the salesman comes to a school bus that's off the road, and it's stuck. He asks why he didn't like ask the truck that went by for like help, and the bus driver says, "I must have missed him." So this turned out to be incorrect, but I said I'm going to call it that the truck driver doesn't exist, or he mistook what he's actually been trying to do, and he's having a mental breakdown or something. Next note: so I wasn't right on him not existing, but he might be a good guy, or he might not be a bad guy. Next note: then he tries to push him into a train, so maybe he's not a good guy after all. So I was wrong on 3 accounts.
I was thinking during that scene, like, there's more to this movie than meets the eye, because like, I think this is a movie about like a man becoming a cuck, because like his car is too weak to like push the bus.
Right.
All the kids are like laughing at him when he's trying to
becoming
like
a cuck. I think he already. I think he already is one. What do you mean?
Yeah, it's like the weakness of man.
Well, I think it's like
against the cruel elements of nature.
I think it's the opposite. I think that he's, I think that it's like showing how much of a fucking, like, you know, weakling his character is. But I think that like there's a point at which like he takes a stand in this film, and it.
Yeah, he's able to overcome his weakness.
But there are a lot of like parallels to like, besides just the phone call in the beginning, like, you know, like he can't like push the school bus free, like, and then all this other stuff happens, you know, like he can't.
His car gets caught under the bus, and he like is too weak to like get it clear.
He can't like stop the truck from like pushing him into like you know, like the train. Well, he doesn't stop it, it just ends. So
the train scene is pretty cool. But you know what I was thinking during that scene?
What?
I was like, I hope that's not the midnight meat train. All aboard.
I actually was thinking of like Lethal Weapon, because they did that in that movie a couple times, didn't they? And one of them where like those dudes would like, that is the stupidest shit ever though, because to me I was like, those guys could have just put it in drive and drove past all that. Instead they like try to stop for like an hour, and then they like eventually get pushed in. So Fuck that film franchise. So, at the beginning, I kind of felt like the main character, like the actor, kind of looked like Michael Gross.
Yeah, I can see that.
But then towards the end, he kind of looked like the guy from Westworld.
Yul Brenner?
No, the actual, like the main actor.
I forget who the main actor even is in that movie.
Yul Brenner.
He like shaves his head. He's like, y'all.
Yeah, I'm like, what? Let me look this up. Give me a second. It's James Brolin. Because he was all gritty and shit, and he was like a kind of a badass at the end to a degree, or he just wasn't a fucking puss.
I think I only know him from this movie and Touch of Evil, which is like a classic Orson Welles movie where like Dennis Weaver plays one of the worst. Like it's one of the worst performances I've ever seen in a movie.
I mean, I think most people have only heard of him from this movie. I think the only reason anybody would hear him from like Touch of Evil is because Steven Spielberg says it's like one of his favorite films. So
I think he did a lot of TV shows in the 70s.
Yeah, he was in like Gunsmoke and stuff for a long time. But like,
did you like how his character's name was Mr. Man?
Who is that Mr. Man? Yeah, it was
Who is that man?
It was pretty generic.
Like, man versus truck. Duel.
That was the guy's last name. That was driving it. Truck. Mr. Man
John
versus
Truck.
Mr. Truck. Truck driver drives. So this guy goes to the phone booth, and the fucking truck driver drives into the phone booth, and it's very clear that it's like, okay, this guy is unequivocally trying to murder the fuck out of this other guy.
Oh yeah. It's a pretty hairy looking stunt. Like, it's pretty scary to watch. Like, holy crap.
Yeah, the main character is like calling the police and like almost runs him over, and he comes back. No, it happens over and over again too. So it's like, it's not just like a one-time thing. It's like, it happens like 3 or 4 times.
Did you notice you can clearly see Steven Spielberg's reflection in that phone booth?
There's another time where you see him as well. He's in one of the scenes where like the main character is like driving his car. He's in the back seat, like.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Nice. I didn't catch that. It's like, learn how to direct, Steven. Jeez.
What a fucking loser.
He sucked.
He did. So he goes down the road, and he's waiting.
Well, right before that happened, I noticed there's this really cool shot where the car is like coming towards the camera, and it's really far away, and the camera is stationary. And by the time the car gets to the camera, like, it's at full speed, like zooming into him driving. And it's like, dude, that's awesome. I love stuff like that.
Yeah, I love inept camera work as well.
Huh?
You were like, ha. No, I was just.
I also
kidding.
had a note that you hear a werewolf in this movie, and at one point, don't you hear a wolf howl? It's like,
I remember that.
Or did I make that up?
I could have been. I mean,
it's like that generic, like, stock wolf sound, and it cracked me up.
I don't remember that, but I'll take your word for it, because I also didn't see that thing in that one movie we saw where you saw like a dead person or whatever. An Action Jackson.
Oh, Action Jackson?
Yeah.
A ghost. That was
I still never like went back
that.
and like looked into that, like that scene.
You don't want to see it. It'll haunt your nightmares.
Wouldn't it haunt my like dreams and turn them into nightmares? If a nightmare got haunted, what would that be?
To like cancel it out.
The nightmare was so fucking haunted that it ran away.
I was having this horrible nightmare, but then it became haunted. Yeah.
A haunted nightmare on Lover's Lane turns into a fucking shit show. News at 11. Oh, Jesus. So, yeah. So they're driving up this hill for like ever, and he's like, "Where's the summit? Come on!" Like he gives it like 100,000% on that. I was like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah, you're going for it big time.
But that's actually, he said that's one of the reasons why he actually wanted Dennis Weaver. Steven Spielberg says is that in that movie you were talking about, he shows like pretty much like that he can be like an actor that can do like, you know,
He can go so far over the top, like it's crazy.
Well, just the actual the emotions that he shows, like,
yeah,
he can show those, like the what's it called, like the horrified and like all that kind of stuff.
But in Touch of Evil, like, he plays a character who's really scared all the time, and it's like Don Knotts style. Good lord, man.
So, I will say, okay, so this is like, the next note I had, because there's other stuff to talk about, but like, the next note I had was about like the ending, where like both the car and the truck go over the edge. And like, I have to give props.
He's able to basically like bait the truck into crashing into the car and going over the edge of a cliff.
Yeah. And I have to give props that, like, even though the truck he was, like, driving said flammable, it didn't blow up or, like, even light fire.
Dude, like, I was disappointed in that. I was like, come on.
No, see, I think that would have been just too easy.
Yeah. That's what always happens.
And that's actually what Steven Spielberg, like, he was, like, I guess they wanted, like, the studio wanted him to, like, refilm that and, like, be like, at the end, we want you to, like, have it blow up. And, like, he was like, okay, I'll do it. Or he's like, if, you know, we can do that, but you're gonna have to find like a different director, because I'm not gonna fucking film that bullshit. Because he liked how it looked or whatever, just like the way it was. And I was just like, yeah, man, I completely agree. I mean, like, if this was like a Lethal Weapon movie, yeah, but, you know, it's not some action schlock, you know, that had like no
or Chud.
Thought behind
Remember
it.
the truck is like,
dude, that was, yeah, that was like, what the fuck. But Chud was no Citizen Kane, so.
Did you notice when the truck is like going over the cliff, there's like a sound effect of like a monster like,
yeah, it's actually the same sound effect that they use in Jaws.
Right, exactly.
At the very end, apparently.
Which also, sharks don't roar either, but
yeah,
it works.
Yeah, it's good sound design. It helps with the movie, but yeah, I mean it's like, okay, I'm like, feck off. Yeah, overall, I'd say this is a good movie. I was kind of like not really liking this movie at the beginning, but once like the character kind of shone through for like the like I think like when it was literally just the first little bit on the road, I was kind of like, okay, is this literally going to be like just on the road the whole time?
Yeah.
And then when they pulled into the gas station for the first time, there was a little bit of reprieve for the you know, I guess you could say like tenseness of like facing off against like the trucker that at that point hadn't been like 100% proven to like he was gonna be like a bad person, even though I mean this movie's like super old and it's called Duel and the fucking cover of the fucking film is like the two cars, so it's like, okay.
Yeah.
So there was no illusion that I didn't know it was gonna happen, but at the same time I had to sit through the movie, not in a bad way, just saying, you know, that's what I'm doing is I'm watching the fucking film. So once it hit that,
I liked it, man.
And then like
I was pretty sure you'd like it, but I wasn't totally sure because it does seem in some ways a little bit dated, but I like it. I think it's cool just to see Spielberg's first kind of movie,
Right.
And also, this movie is like almost all action. Like 90% of the movie is like there's action happening, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's
even
like
if the action's just driving,
right.
It's still like in motion.
I mean, that's the thing is I don't really care if a movie has action or not. I'm not like a huge... I mean, I like action films. They're okay, but I'm not like you. I'm not like... They're not like my favorite thing of all time. But I am with you with the idea of like, this movie is really good at like, it doesn't waste like any time. Like even the added scenes, none of them I felt like I was shocked when I found out that like those scenes were added later. Because I was like... Yeah, it would have been a shorter movie, but, like, at the same time, like, those scenes weren't the ones that I would have ever, like, thought were, like, not in the original.
Yeah, especially the phone call. Like, that one almost seems like one of the most important scenes in the whole movie.
Right, I could see maybe, like, the school bus scene, like, being cut. But, like, the part where he, like, phones his wife, like, the railroad crossing, and even, like, the opening scene where the car backs out of the like garage and drives, like, yeah, I mean that was what it was, but it's essentially there for the credits, so you know, I'm used to that kind of shit. It didn't like piss me off like when we watch Outland and it was like 25 years of fucking exposition before the fucking movie started that had nothing to do with the rest of the film. It was like, okay, get out your fucking like, you know, if you're taking notes on this film, make sure to, like, fucking write all this shit down because, like, it's not going to really matter later. Because essentially this is, like, an action film.
I'm so looking forward to the day when we do Prince of Darkness and the opening credits scene takes 15 minutes. 15 minutes of a 90-minute movie is credits.
Yeah, Prince of Darkness is actually one that I definitely want to do. I've seen that one a couple times, but it's got a very, like, alluring feel to me.
Oh yeah, it's one of those you want to watch over and over again.
It's just like, it's like you want more, but you don't want them to like show more. You know what I mean? If that makes sense. Like,
yeah, totally. Because what they show, like, dude, that's like the video footage of like Christ or like the devil emerging from that church is like the scariest thing I've ever seen in a movie.
Yeah.
Anyways, that's for the Prince of Darkness episode. Coming November 24th.
For Nintendo 64. Coming November 24th. Yeah. I guess, do you have anything else? Do you have any other notes for this film?
I only have one other note, which is the final shot in this movie is him, like, throwing rocks.
Right, he's like a broken man.
Just like Montoya in Vampires when he threw that rock. Yeah. You think John Carpenter was inspired by Duel?
Maybe. I mean, he might have seen it at some point. I don't know exactly.
I just realized that's probably the dumbest note I've ever taken for the show.
It's probably like 100 times better than anything that I've written down though, so. Or said on accident.
Two movies in a row, or 2 weeks in a row, where we had dudes throwing rocks. So maybe we'll make it 3.
Well, maybe. We'll see. We'll leave this up to you. Because it is now time to pick our fan-nominated film. You can be one of the lucky people on this list. That came off kind of like an asshole. You can be one of the lucky people. You know.
You can do take 2.
Yeah, okay. So let's start over. Take 2.
And action.
Action. So, here on the Buddy Shots podcast, we like to do a little thing called the Buddy Shots podcast nominations. And the way this works is you can use the channel points, the Hunters Guild coins, to redeem for a film. And we will put it on the list. And this is actually how it's going to go from now on. I'm going to throw it to Matt, and I'm going to let him pick a number. And that number is assigned to a film on this list. He doesn't know what any of these films are, and he doesn't know what these are attributed to. So, he is literally... The next movie we watch is nominated by you, but it's in Matt's hands.
Buddy Boys.
Yeah, the Buddy Boys. But the Buddy Dad is going to fucking... make the final decision. By a random chance. Okay, so we've got numbers 1 through 17 here, and those correspond to films on this list that are nominated across the board. I've shuffled them here. So, what are you feeling like today? What number are you feeling?
Oh man, I'm scared.
Don't be scared. You're running from matcha. That's what I heard. Yeah. It's yeah, man.
I tried to have a real fight and I passed.
It's like, what?
You called my dad up on the phone, man. You're a chump. All right, so 1 through 17?
Yes, sir.
3.
Okay, let me check. Okay, so number 3, we are nominating Scott Pilgrim versus the World, I think is what it's called. I can't remember. I've only seen it since theaters. Let me check here. I think was that the last.
That sounds right.
Yeah, it is. I don't know why I didn't know that offhand, but then again, I've only seen it like the one time in theaters. I think I saw it with you in theaters, didn't I?
Yep. That's the only time I've seen it.
It was like me, you, Nate, a shit ton of other people went to. I think this is the last time we got like so many people to go see a movie. Honestly, was when this film was coming out. Because after that, everybody was just like, I think Indiana Jones was the next big film, and everybody was like, fuck that. But yeah, Scott Pilgrim versus the World. That was nominated by Tabby, friend of the podcast. You got any thoughts on this movie before next week?
I remember it was very entertaining.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I was prejudiced against it because it's a comic book movie, technically. Which is so lame on my part.
It's weird because, yeah, it is. It's like, it's a comic, but it's weird because it's a comic where there really are no superheroes, but at the same time, people have, like, somewhat powers? It's weird. When we talk about it next week, I'm going to discuss a little bit more about the source material versus the movie as well, and we'll kind of go more into that. But, yeah.
Cool.
That's going to be a good time. So, any other words before we end this podcast for the week, sir?
All I'll say is we nailed it once again. Perfect podcast. No mistakes.
Yeah, except for at the beginning when I accidentally fucking shut the podcast down, so I'm going to have to do some fucking Frankenstein stitchery and put it back together. But, yeah, I think
still perfect.
It sucks because I like doing it in person, but, like, the production quality is so much better when I can do it from my desktop, you know what I mean? Yeah. So we'll have to figure something out, because, I don't know. I think it's also, like, the problem is, when we do it, like, together, like, the audio, for some reason, was also, like, really fucked up. Like, I watched last week's, and it was a little weird looking, but...
Really?
Glad we rated over here. Had fun listening. I'll have to tune in another time. Well, thank you very much for coming by, everybody. We definitely appreciate it. Usually, we don't do these during the week. We usually do it Saturdays in person at 6 p.m. But we had stuff going on Saturdays, so we couldn't really do it this week. But I don't know. This wasn't horrible doing it during the week. But I don't know. What do you think? Do you like in person more?
Oh yeah, I think it's way better.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I'll have to figure something out. I think that, like, if, man, like I said, I'll have to look into, like, maybe, I don't know, making, like, a small little, like building a small, like, little PC that's, like, strong enough to, like, do what we want. Like, you know, have it set up the way I've got it set up. So, I'll let you look at it once it's done, and then you can kind of fucking make what you think about it. Cool. So until next time, everybody. What do you have to say?
I hope nothing happens.
I agree. But if something happens, I'm fucked.
There's gonna be a duel.
Shit! It's gonna be a duel. Okay, cool. Well, I'll let you
Talk to you next
go
time.
take care of whatever's going on. And until next time, we'll see you in the funny papers.